Um, so thank you everyone for joining and those who are still joining. I really appreciate it. My name is Mia Teller. I go by she, her pronouns, and I am the president of MSU Rotaract. I'll kind of get into what Rotaract is, but I am a senior. I'll be graduating in like a month and a half, which is crazy to me because I feel like I just started. So for those of you that are freshmen, it does go by very quickly. We'll get into our speaker introductions, but if anyone else kind of wanted to share about themselves, I notice a lot of our members and e-board is here, which I really appreciate. And again, we have a wide variety of, students and majors and um, all sorts of grades. So if anyone wanted to share really quickly, or we can wait till after at the Q&A and we can get started, whatever anyone might feel comfortable with. I'll go ahead. Um, so we'll get started with our agenda. It'll be pretty simple. We are trying to keep this a more relaxed event so you all feel comfortable speaking and, asking questions to our speakers. So we'll start with our welcome, talk about ourselves a little bit, what our clubs are. I'll have our speakers introduce themselves a little, give them a couple minutes to go over their um, wide variety of jobs and their backgrounds, and then we'll go over some questions that we kind of prepared with the speakers beforehand, and then we'll open it up to you guys. Again, you're welcome to unmute yourself at any point. Feel free to type in the chat at any point. If you don't feel comfortable typing in the chat to everyone, feel free to say it to me and I will ask our speakers whatever makes you most comfortable. And then we'll kind of finish out with closing statements, anything else anyone would like to add, and then we'll kind of be done. So I'll go ahead and get started. So for those of you who don't know, who aren't a part of Rotaract, again, I'm the president of Rotaract, and it's a non-profit organization. It's worldwide, and Rotaract is for undergraduate students, young professionals, graduate students who are looking to make a difference in the world, looking to network and help out others in their community. Rotary is a worldwide organization, so we're basically the college level of what Rotary is. So, not as expensive of dues and maybe a little less, what's the word? Um, Professional or intense. We're very, calm, here for everyone, here to help out however we can. We're just looking to make a difference in our college community. So I appreciate everyone that's able to join and, learn more about us as a whole. We are sponsored by the East Lansing Rotary Club and the Hazlet Okemos Rotary Club, which we actually have a member here speaking from the Hazlet Okemos Club, which is fantastic. And overall, it's just a really great organization to get involved, meet new people, make connections, and make a difference across our community and our campus. And then, Ria, I'll have you speak about G.L.O.W.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Ria. I'm also one of the speakers, but I actually am the founder and CEO of G.L.O.W. It stands for Girls Lead Our World. I created it around 2016 after working with some women. My family is from India, so working with women in there and hearing about the issues that were going on in that side of the world, I created G.L.O.W. to sort of have a network and be a community of other people, women, Rotary, whoever you want it to be, that just goes and addresses the community's unique needs for what they may be going through. So women in India, they might be going through a little bit more like life or death situations versus like women here, it may not be that as extreme throughout the whole context. So that's why I created Glow. This is our fourth annual like Women's Empowerment Symposium. I've really left it up to Mia though for the Rotaract side because she's been really killing it with Rotaract. I was the past president of Rotaract, so me and I worked very, very closely together last year. So she's been doing amazing. But this is Glow. We do a lot of great work, and this is just an annual thing that we host, and we just want to help empower women and help women learn across the nation, wherever they may be. Anyone can empower women. So that's a little bit about Glow.
Awesome, thank you. And then, yeah, if you guys have any questions about either organization, feel free to ask. And then our websites are also on here as well. So we'll go ahead and get started with the introductions. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to Dr. Acevedo and have her introduce herself a little bit, and then we'll kind of move down the line as the slides say, and from there we'll move into some questions. If that sounds good to everyone. So I will pass it over to her.
Thank you, Mia. Do you have any specific things that you want me to share about myself as an introduction? Because I do have my bio there. And is there anything specific that you
Yeah.
wanted me to focus on?
Yeah, if you want to talk about kind of your education and kind of what got you to where you are today, what inspired you, things like that, like your quick couple minute elevator pitch, kind of,
Okay.
and then we can go deeper
Um,
into it.
oh my gosh, you probably heard all my stories already.
I'd love to hear them again.
So pardon me.
I would love to hear them again.
So this is my 34th year in education, and as it says in my bio, I have held a lot of hats in education. And no matter what I do, and I mean this sincerely, Mia can tell you, any interaction that I can have with the student is the part of my career that I love the most. Excuse me. I actually got into education accidentally. I had wanted to go to veterinary school, and my high school counselor told me that I wasn't smart enough, so that I should just focus. And again, this was like back in the 80s, right? That I should just focus on getting married and raising a family. And while there's nothing wrong with that, I knew that's, I was 17 when I graduated high school. That's not what I wanted. Um, so I waited about, well, several years after graduating from high school, and then I just got tired of working dead end jobs and being mistreated by, and again, we're talking, 80s. So I decided to try. I had been going to college, a community college in Florida, and transferred to MSU only because one of my sisters had gone here. And that taste of higher education just had me. So then I went to Texas, earned my master's degree, moved to Florida. And in all of this, I started, after moving to Michigan, I worked and got my doctorate. And I didn't start that until I was 40, and I was divorced and with my child. So that was hard. But and not to be redundant to the purpose here, but it was very empowering. um and I mean, that's my life. I've just really had to self-empower and self-actualize. And I've been at MSU for, gosh, probably about 10 and a half, 11 years now. Almost 9 years in the Department of Writing, Rhetoric, and Cultures. I also taught in MSU's Detroit College of Law, and I also teach for MSU's College of Education and in CISA, which is the Center for Integrative Studies in Arts and Humanities. And I'm really excited to learn more about you. Is it Ria or Raya?
Ria, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I really want to talk to you too about G.L.O.W, because
Mhm.
I think we have potential collaboration here based on my Kathambi and Karwitha Mera Education 501(c)(3) as well. So yeah, I do a lot of stuff. I really love faculty development. I designed and lead RAC's yearly faculty symposium, Lightning Strikes. We just had that last Friday. And yeah, I'm on the Equity and Justice Committee. I am an advisor for a couple RSOs. I'm an advisor for a sorority. The book club that's mentioned, the cast book club that's mentioned in my bio, we're actually going to turn that into an RSO. So, yeah, that's me professionally. And then personally, I am all about animal rights activism, environmental activism, and um, getting rid of in any way, shape, or form what has overtaken our political arena now. So, and I'm not shy. So I know that's hard to believe. Mia's like, no, she's not. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Mia. And I did scroll through the names, and I saw a couple people who I know, so I won't identify y'all. But that's really cool. Did you want me to popcorn to somebody, Mia, or did you want to go ahead and do that?
Yeah, I can move on to the next one.
Great.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. That was great. All right, so next up, we're gonna move on to our lawyer. So I will let Metin introduce herself, kind of the same thing, just a little couple minute introduction of kind of who you are and kind of where you got to be today.
Sure. Yeah. Can you guys all hear me?
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. Thank you guys so much for inviting me to this. I'm all about empowering women in any field. So I think that this is just awesome that you guys are doing this. I'm from East Lansing originally, so very MSU is, close to my heart, even though I am a Wolverine. I did go to Michigan for undergrad, but then I came back to East Lansing for law school. A little bit about kind of how I got into law. Really, it was through just taking courses in my undergrad. Like, I was the type of person where I was like, I'm taking science courses, I'm taking arts and humanity, like, I'm taking it all to figure out what my you need to be in litigation. You need to be an attorney. I love speaking to people. I'm very opinionated. It kind of they always say lawyers like to argue. We like to argue, but we also like to advocate, right? Like, the arguments are rooted in a good cause. So it's not like I just like to argue for fun, although my husband says I do. Um, so that's kind of how I got into law, was that I found out my skills in undergrad. I told myself I'm committed to going to law school. I graduated undergrad in 2016, and everyone around me was telling me, what are you doing? Why are you going into law? And that was because in the 2000s, it just was not a good industry to get into, just because the job market wasn't great. I'm a big advocate in telling people, stop listening to the outside noise. Like, if you really want to go into a field and you're passionate about it, you will succeed in it. Everyone told me not to do it, so you're not going to find a job. It ended up being complete opposite. And right now, law is one of the leading fields. It's like we're at an all-time high at hiring. In fact, my law firm has been desperately looking for 2 years to hire more people because we're growing. So that was just a caveat to say, like, you might hear certain things. I know pharmacists now are hearing that a lot, like, no, don't go into pharmacy, it's oversaturated. But again, if there's a passion, like, don't let the outside noise get to you, in my opinion, because I've had a successful career in law. So once I went to MSU, I'm going to be brutally honest, I hated my law school experience. I loved the law school. It had nothing to do with that, but it's not easy, right? You're learning in a completely different way. I went from being, such a like top student at U of M, and then I went to law school, and I'm like, oh, everyone around me, they're all really good. They're all really right. Like, everybody here put in the work. So it was really difficult, but I got through it. I was huge into networking. I mean, I was like a law student posting on LinkedIn, being that person that was like finding law partners that probably were getting emails and messages from, more important people than me at the time. And I was like, hey, I want to, interview, I want an internship at your firm. And it actually worked. One of my LinkedIn messages worked. That's kind of how I got started at the first firm I was at here in Michigan. This is where I'm licensed. This is where I, grew up. I live in Metro Detroit area now. I live in West Bloomfield. The office I work at is out of Troy, but that's kind of how I landed my first job, and then continued networking, which is how I landed the position I'm in now. I'm at a national law firm called Bowman and Brook. We do corporate defense litigation. We only do litigation. So a lot of people, I really didn't know much about like the different fields, but once I went into law school, people were like, do you want to go into litigation? Do you want to go into transactional? And I'm like, I don't really know the difference. I just know I like the, law. I started doing mock trials and I was like, okay, no, I want to be in the courtroom. That's what I want to do. And that's litigation. So that's what my firm does. We defend primarily my clients are auto manufacturers. I actually just am getting, this is my second week off from a 6.5 week long national trial where it's my first trial that I won. So it's exciting. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. I love that you guys are doing this. I think I shared my LinkedIn with Mia. Like, please, obviously we're here for questions, but please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn at any time.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. All right, we're gonna move on to our next area of business and marketing. I know we have a lot of students in this field, especially at MSU with the Broad College. So I'm gonna hand it over and start with Megan Briggs, and then after that, we'll move on to Ria.
Hi everyone, I'm Megan. To echo what Matt said, thank you guys for having this and for inviting us. I think this is really wonderful. I'm all about empowering women. I work on a team of almost my direct team is all women minus one person, but he basically becomes a woman with us if you get the vibes. Like we're just like we're all together, we're all women, we're all supporting here. All of my leaders are women. Like it's really girl power at my job, which is awesome. Which you don't see a lot, especially in corporate and business. Like definitely growing, women are definitely getting up there. But I am a customer experience manager at Mountain. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. But we are essentially sit in performance television. So what that means is kind of like you can go onto Google as an advertiser. You can go onto Google or Meta and you can launch your ads as the advertiser onto social media, TikTok, Google, whatever it is. Um, Performance TV advertising is new and Mountain has, I believe we've trademarked that, is we've kind of invented this new thing where you can actually track your performance on your paid television. So like on Facebook, you can go run an ad, you can view all of your analytics. On Mountain, you can go run an ad on TV and view all of your analytics. It's really cool because I don't know how many of you are in advertising or have much of like a direct advertising background, but old school TV advertising was like you just throw your TV commercial to a media agency that you're paying them millions of dollars to hope that they're able to strategize to get it on the right network in front of your audience. And with Mountain, any advertiser, any level, any budget can go onto Mountain, run their TV creative. If you don't have creative, we can help with it, and then get it launched. And so I think it's just like a really, I love, you guys will get this throughout it, but like I love my job and I love where I work. And I also think it's just like really cool that we've opened up this whole new world of advertising for businesses, from everyone from like your mom and pop shop down the street to McDonald's and Colgate and Pepsi and all of them. But I graduated from Michigan State University in 2020. So into the pandemic, that was quite interesting. It was pretty much like just trying to apply to every job as much as possible. In advertising creative, which is very specific. All of my courses were like creative design and creative writing and like lots of projects. I did not take a lot of tests into my junior and senior year of college. Lots of projects. And then in college, I was a part of the Rotaract Club, 2017 to 2020. I'm currently part of the Rotary Club in Hazlet, Okemos, which sounds lame, but it's really fun. We just do a lot of community work. I get to go have lunch with like other people. I like to say I'm 26 going on 27. Most of the people in the Rotary Club, as you guys can imagine, are above 50. And so it really gets me out of my comfort zone. Like a lot of the people that I work with are between like 22 to 40. So we're all kind of like, and a lot of us are like 25 to 30. So we're all like same age, same group. So I love going to Rotary Club because it gets me out of my communication, like regular communication zones. But yeah, outside of like work, I mean, I work from home and so work and life mend a lot. I travel a lot. As long as I have a Wi-Fi connection, I can work from anywhere. So I travel a lot and work from all over whenever I can. Love playing video games. I have some cats, but um I have like my job and school and stuff here in my bio, but I think it's important to also recognize like and just to keep in your mind, your job and your accomplishments on paper are not your whole life and everything about you. So that's will be a theme through how I talk today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really like what you said there. Mental health and doing things outside of work is very important. All right. Ria, I'm gonna pass it over to you and let you talk about yourself a little bit.
Great. I actually don't like talking about myself, so this is really fun. Hi everyone. My name is Ria. I talked a little bit earlier about Glow, but I recently graduated from MSU. Actually, I just graduated less than a year ago. So I'm fresh meat. They call it green at my company. I don't, whatever that means. But. Yeah, so I just graduated from MSU in the Broad College. I had a degree in marketing and I had a minor in IT because I really like technology. I had a lot of internships in technology too, so I feel like I'm just a little bit more like I've worked a lot in technology. Right now I work for Stryker. I don't think a lot of people know what that is. I didn't know what it was when I was like first starting out a little bit, and like looking at jobs. Stryker is a medical technology company, so your beds, your stretchers, the instruments that surgeons use, all of that is like full Stryker. And we have a very large market share in the medical industry. So if you know medicine, you probably know Stryker. Um, so I didn't realize how big of a company it was when I went in, but it is amazing. I've been working there for about 7 months now. So I'm learning something new every single day. I'm a marketing associate. So I'm really like our product expert, but I work cross-functionally a lot. So I work with a lot of IT people, which is great because I have IT background, but I work with other marketers, I work with researchers, I work with sales reps, I work with like a bunch of other people on a daily basis. So I'm learning something new every single day, whether it's about the company, or the medical field, about the work that I should be doing, or even like personally, how I react to things, how I do things, what's best for me. And you get put on the spot a lot more. I feel like in college you can kind of like prep a little bit more for if you have something coming versus at work it's really just like, oh, this is happening now. So that was really interesting, but I love where I am. I'm now in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Um, One thing about me is I tell this story to everybody at work too, but I had an internship at the Kellogg Company, which is in Battle Creek. It's very, very close to Kalamazoo. So sometimes when other interns were in town, we would go into Kalamazoo for some food because Kalamazoo has really good food. We'd get some dinner or something. And I remember one night, distinctly remember this one night. There was a fellow Rotarian who also works at Stryker. She's the one who helped me get in. She's a big mentor of mine. And I saw like a badge on her backpack or something like that that said Stryker. And I was like, I'm never going to work for that company. That company sounds like hell. Like I'm never going to work at it. It's not the industry I was thinking about. Not going to do it. We were driving into Kalamazoo at that time. And I'm like, while we're making statements, I'm not going to live in Kalamazoo. I actively like it's not my scene. I'm gonna go to a bigger company. I'm gonna go to a company in my industry, whatever it was. Now, both of those prophecies were fulfilled. I now live in Kalamazoo and I work at Stryker, and I couldn't be happier. Honestly, I'm so happy that I made the decision to come here. It was a struggle at first, because the job market is very hard right now. So it was a struggle at first when all your friends have jobs and you don't. But it was the best decision I ever made. So like just a lot of what I'm going to be about to say is like being open to opportunities that come, being open to what you can do, what you can't, understanding yourself a little bit more. It's a lot of what I've learned so far, and it's something I'll keep preaching for a little bit until at least a year is hit until I graduated. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. So with that, um, our nurse practitioner is about 10 minutes out, so I think we can go ahead and get started with our discussions and our chats. And then once she joins, I'll kind of pull up her slide again, um, and we can learn about her and then ask her some questions. So I'm gonna stop sharing for now, so it's a little more of a discussion, a little more personal. All right. Hi, everyone. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with some questions. So I was thinking I'll start with just kind of some broader questions that I sent to you guys earlier. And then we can kind of go in a row. However, if we want to go kind of the way we did through the slides, that's fine. If someone else, if at any point you don't want to answer a question, that's totally okay. Just, we'll move on to the next person, but we can go ahead and get started. So, for everyone, what has been one of your favorite projects that you have worked on in your career? And what kind of led you there?
I can take that one honestly right now. I know I'm very new in my career, but I'm actually working on my favorite project right now, which is so right now, Striker, we have launched a new product, which is absolutely amazing, very, very cool. I've never been involved in a launch before. And as marketing associates, I travel a ton. There are times in the office where there's a lot of other marketing associates, and like I haven't seen a couple of them in like weeks because we're constantly on the road traveling and doing all that stuff. And I get to kind of focus a little bit more on the travel that I want to do. I get to be a little bit more strategic. I'm less of a yes man. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I actually get to make more strategic thoughts and I get to actually execute on it and I get to actually like pick what travel is important, where I need to go. And like that's only happened within 7 months of my career so far. And like the credibility is only going to grow. But you get a lot of creative freedom and I'm working with a lot, like I said, I'm working very co cross collaboratively with a lot of people. But um, when I first started, I was so scared to do anything or make any decisions. I was just like a little like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm so scared. There's like, this is a big company and I'm just here. But like, you slowly learn a little bit more about the company, about what you need to do, about you, about yourself, your role. Um, and taking that leadership in that position, I got frustrated that it took this long to do it, but it's an amazing opportunity that I do get to do it because not a lot of people at such a young age have that decision-making power. So actually, I was just in Vegas 2 weeks ago, and now I'll be going across regions to a few places. Still haven't decided those, but you get to travel a lot.
Just to bounce off Ria's point a little bit there, I think what's really important about what you said is like that trust factor of I get to make these decisions and I get to do this. I think a lot of times when we're in college and you're younger, you're like, I don't know if I'm doing a good job, or you're applying to so many jobs and you're like, I don't know if this is going to work or this is going to work. And there's just so much I don't know. And I think that can really drive us to lose some confidence in ourselves because we just don't know. And then the second you do get that job and you do start, it's like, okay, now someone is paying you a decent amount of money to actually have the answers and to actually know what you're talking about. And yes, they will, any new job you start, they will train you from the beginning. They will tell you everything. So take that out of it. And then it's once you know the stuff, it is your job to kind of just think about it. And even if you don't know the answer, just think of the answer. Like they are paying you to be confident and make the decisions. And that does take a long time to learn and to kind of change your mindset from like, I don't know the answer, I need help, to like, oh no, they're looking to me for the answer.
Yeah, and to your point, Megan, like it's not even like, oh no, they're looking for me. It's something I wish I did more in college was owning a lot of the stuff I was doing already and building that confidence within myself a little bit more of like, okay, say I was working on a project or something like that. And it's a small project, whatever, like it's just for a grade and then I'm going to move on. But actually thinking about it a little bit more and like owning that part of me, like I'm going to do this and I'm going to learn about myself with this and like having a shifted mentality towards it. Not, of course, not every project, because sometimes projects are a pain. But some projects, the big ones where you like are doing something you like and you're doing something like your capstone or whatever, I don't know what age group we're talking to, but um you really get to own that and you build that confidence and you presenting that confidence but willing to learn and willing to go through that process of like not quite understanding but still like wanting to learn and still knowing who you are at least to an extent like that goes a long way, especially like in interviews and when you're first starting out, is just they want to know that you're continuing to learn, you're continuing to grow, even though they know you don't, everyone knows you don't have the answer. I'm just gonna say it. everyone knows you don't have the answer. And also something I realized, not everyone else has the answer. So to Megan's point, when you get to own it and you get to be more confident in it, it's just a different feeling.
Yeah, and I can, I totally agree with everything that's been said, especially, I've noticed that a lot in my field, especially being a female in a very male dominant field. Um, I work with mostly men, but my law firm has put me on all of the big trials and not them. And that has a lot to do with ownership, taking initiative, and just actually acknowledging that you don't know everything. That's okay, because like the partners that I work with don't know. But it's all about, you know what, I'm going to take initiative and there's not anything that I can't figure out, right? Like, and that goes all across to all of our industries. Like, you have gotten to where you are and you're going to continue to get to where you are because of the work that you put in. Like, your career is what you make of it, right? So being taking ownership, having initiative. It's okay to make the mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. I get red line revisions and I'm from my, the partners I work with, and I'm like, oh, well, yeah, why did I write it like that? But now I'm also entering a leadership role where I'm, mentoring and training people below me. And I'm like, when I say below me, I just mean younger than me that are just now coming into the field, and I'm doing the same thing, right? And they don't have to know all the answers. It doesn't mean you're incompetent. It doesn't mean you will never learn. Your careers, you're learning like nonstop. So I just, to piggyback off of what everyone said, I totally agree. Take ownership, be confident, and initiative.
I would say career rise. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. There's so many amazing experiences that I have had in over 3 decades in education. I mean, so many, so many. I remember when I started out teaching middle school in South Texas, that was literally 34 years ago, and I'm still in touch with some of well, they're adults now, but some of the students I had all those years ago. And I worked at that job. I worked primarily with kids who were in gangs, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. I had a 10-year-old. I met her when she was 10. Mia's heard the story. I met her when she was 10. And by the time she was 11, she was already married, trying to have a baby. So I have so many things. I am the one who designed. I don't know if you've ever been to Florida, but I lived in Gainesville, Florida for a while, and the college there used to be called Santa Fe Community College. Now it's Santa Fe College. But if you Google them and look them up, you'll see that they have a college for kids program. I designed and started that program. Everything that they're doing now, I started that program. I designed it, I hired, I interviewed, I trained, I wrote all the curricula, I did everything. And I just loved that program. And again, even earlier that when I was in South Texas working with the Communities and Schools program, I again worked with sixth, seventh, and eighth grade students, and I held before and after school um, tutoring sessions with them and created the community, not just the schools, but actually the entire community's first health fair. Um, I took a whole bunch of these gang kids, the Crips, the Bloods. I had some Mexican mafias were just starting to become popular back then. This is in the 90s. And we did a fundraiser, and I had about 20 kids and their parents as chaperones. And we got to go to a nice restaurant, and some of these kids had never left their town. Imagine growing up in Holt, Michigan, or a really small town and never ever leaving that town. Never, not even to go to a Walmart or nothing. And then on the way back from the restaurant, um, there was a pop-up carnival. So we had money left over, and I'm like, come on, let's go to the carnival. So here were all these 11 to 16-year-old kids who were hardened by life, that you hopefully you have no idea what they experienced, who were coming back who got in no fights. Each student got $25 from the fundraising, a lot of money for them, right? And they would, well, I won this present playing water balloons and I'm going to give it to my little sister. Or, can I save my money, teacher, because I want to give this to my mom so she can go buy diapers for my little brother. Those are, I mean, there's just so many, but I have to say that my favorite project I've worked on in my entire career is me. I started as an educator who was that was of the time of, the teacher is the sage on the stage. It's all about us. We're right. The students are wrong. And throughout my career, I've completely changed that ideology. And I've just become just a completely different educator and, somebody who practices not just pedagogical practices, but andragogical. I treat my students like adults because y'all are adults. But in all those projects, I am my favorite project. And for me, one of the biggest things as a woman that I have had to learn how to stop doing, and it is hard. I am one of those people over 50. I'm 60. So, I mean, I grew up, when the hippie era was ending and the 70s were starting. And one of the things that I would encourage you as you're working on various projects academically, professionally, whatever they are, is anytime you want to share your opinion, do not start with, well, I think that, because men never say that. They just say what they want to say. We already know what you think because you're going to talk about it. So be your primary project, and taken everything that Megan and Raya and Martin has said, taken everything that everybody said. Yes, they don't. You're right. Right. But please try to get into the habit now of not saying, well, I think that. Just say what you want to say. And with time, that'll become easier. It can be very difficult to do in the beginning, but with time, it'll get easier. And be your priority as a project.
That was great. Thank you guys so much. Sorry, there's a train going by if there's a lot of noise in my background right now. But I really loved what all of you said and your different experiences. It's really wonderful. Oh, see, Ria, learned something new. Um, it does look like our nurse practitioner just joined, Megan. Um, so whenever you are up and ready, I can get your slide pulled up. There she is. Hi,
Hi.
how are
You
you
can pull it up.
doing?
I'm ready. Good. How are
Amazing.
you?
Good. All right. Give me a moment. All right, I'm gonna share again so we can see her bio and all about her. And then Megan, whenever you're ready, we're just kind of for introductions going over how you got to where you are today, what you're doing, and just like a quick couple minute kind of elevator pitch about yourself and what your profession is and what you did to get there.
Okay, great. Well, hi guys. My name is Megan Tarhanic. I am a pediatric nurse practitioner. I graduated from Michigan State in 2017. My undergrad was in neuroscience, and then I went to Wayne State for my first master's, which was in basic medical science. At the time, my intention was to go to medical school. Um, but there was a little bit of a shift in that. I didn't want to go out of state, and I had met my now husband. So I kind of decided to shift gears, stay semi-local. I did end up at Ohio State. I know we don't like them. I didn't either, but that's where I went. Finished that and came back right away. Actually, came back a little bit early. I was able to finish my clinicals and started working as a nurse at IHA, where I was finishing my training. And then I got accepted as a practitioner there shortly after graduating and getting credentialed, which is a whole long process. If anybody is interested, I can go into that. But um, yeah, so basically, kind of knew I wanted to work with kids in some capacity since I was very little, but didn't know necessarily in what aspect. And as I continued on with school, I just really fell in love with science and figured why not combine the two things that I like the most and kind of ended up in the world of medicine. So, yeah, that's kind of how I got here, and I'm absolutely loving it. I started this job in December. So I'm sorry for being late. I was at work finishing charting, which is the joy of doing this career. But yeah, fun fact about me, I guess I not only went to MSU like you guys, but I also kind of helped restart the Rotaract Club when I was there. So in the fall of 2016, we kind of got a small group of people together, kind of chit-chatting about like why we wanted to do this and how we could do this. And then I started off as VP of operations and vice president. And as we kickstarted and into the next year, I got to serve as president prior to me graduating. So that's kind of my little spiel.
Thank you. So good to have you here. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing. Again, if you want to reach out to Megan afterwards, I'll send out the slides as well. So everyone's contact information will be on there. But I'll go ahead and stop sharing. We can kind of get back to our Q&A. So Megan, the last question we did, if you want to hop on it really quick, was just what has been your favorite project that you were able to work on throughout your school or career, and kind of what did it look like and how did it go, if you have one in mind?
I don't necessarily have a specific project in mind. I didn't really get super involved in research or anything. But I would say that one of my favorite things in my career was getting my first pediatric clinical, of course, because we kind of start with human medicine and we work with adults and we work with different sides of things. But my first pediatric clinical was at Nationwide Children's in Ohio, because I was in Columbus at the time. And it's one of the top pediatric hospitals in the entire country. It was such an honor to work there and get to meet the staff and just see why they are so highly ranked and recognized. And that really got me kickstarted. I ended up taking a nursing job there as well prior to moving to Michigan. And it just really fueled me. So I would say if there is a project, whatever it is that you guys are interested in, find it in the field that you like, get to know the people, get to know their jobs, what they do every day, and see if it's going to be the right fit for you, because nothing fueled me or motivated me more in my field than kind of getting that hands-on experience.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Um, I'm gonna move on. We have another question in the chat here from Eleanor. So her question is, what advice do you have to improve networking skills, especially in those male-dominated spaces, or as the youngest in the room or a newer person in the room? What advice do you have for them? Whoever would like to kickstart it.
Is that specific?
I'm going to kick it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I just wasn't sure if it was specific to anybody in particular. Denise, go
No,
ahead.
sorry. This is the broad questions for anyone, and then we'll kind of move into specifics. But yeah, anyone's free to answer here.
Okay, I'll go. So as the oldest member of this, the beauty of getting older is you stop giving a rat's ass what people think about you. And honestly, that is so amazing. So if you can learn that early on and start practicing that mindset early on, regardless of what gender you are, but especially if you're a woman and identify as a woman, that would be fantastic. Talk to people. Keep talking to people, just as Matt said, you use your resources, LinkedIn, Indeed, MSU Handshake, if y'all still have access to that. Wherever you are, just network. Do never apologize. I know Megan said, well, men don't also apologize. Learn how to apologize because you're going to screw up sometime. That's part of networking. Own it and then move on. Don't keep rehashing it. Again, women society, we've been programmed to apologize 50 million times. Tell them how sorry you are. I'm so sorry. It was my mistake. Apologize once, move on. And just network, network, network. It's all about selling yourself, regardless of your career choice. You are selling yourself. And if you have gotten to the point where you're able to sell yourself in that networking sense, that means that you have the knowledge and skills to keep moving forward. And eventually, I mean, the reality is eventually, if you haven't already, you're going to find somebody, not just men, unfortunately, women too, who might feel threatened, especially if you're younger, they feel threatened that they're going to try to hold you down, and be polite, be courteous, and just help them move out of your way.
I could not honestly have said that better. I'm in my fifth year now, being an attorney in a male dominant field, right? Again, not caring. It's a lot easier said than done. I cared a lot in the beginning. Megan and I are really close friends, so she's probably laughing right now, like, yeah, Mateen's the type of person that doesn't give a shit. But you really can't, and it's going to take some time. But to Denise's point, my biggest advocates actually have been men right now, because I'm not afraid to speak up in the large conference room filled with partners that are, make an insane amount of money and are and like way above in their careers, and they're the client contacts. But I'm also the type of person that speaks up, and I don't let my male associates say, something first. If something's on my mind, I'll say it. But really, my biggest advocates really have been the men, and I think that's because they know that I'm not afraid of them. And unfortunately, the women have been really, really difficult to work with in my career, especially being a young female attorney. A lot of my legal assistants are women, and they are a lot older than me. And they have a specific role that they know so much more about than I do or I ever will, because I'm not a legal assistant. But they find it really intimidating that I'm technically their boss and I have to ask them to do stuff for me. It's been, to a point where I've had to go and have conversations like, hey, what am I? And I'm like, that's the type of person I am. I hate just kind of like leaving things. I don't want, you shouldn't care, but like at the same time, you're going to be in that industry with those people. So you do want to create foster a really welcoming environment, right? So I've had to have conversations, and you're gonna have those tough conversations in your career, just like you have them outside your career, right? Like, just like you might have them with a spouse or your mom, right? Like, you have to have difficult conversations, both in your personal life and in your professional life. But yeah, you'll be really surprised, I think, when you get into the field and you're like, whoa, like, it's actually a lot of the women can be threatened by one another, which, I don't love, because that's why we do things like this, because I am all about empowering women. So when you do, get into those spaces where you are like in a seniority level, I really encourage you, like, don't make the other person feel intimidated just because they're younger. Like, maybe you can learn from younger people, just like you can learn from, people that are older than you.
I think it really just networking is literacy skills, right? Being an effective communicator. And Mia knows this, right? Not just listening and speaking, but critically thinking about what you're hearing or saying, analyzing it, and then taking what you've gained from that conversation or reading or whatever it was, the communication message, and speaking to that truth. And sometimes your networking skills through communication are going to be successful. Sometimes they're not. Who cares? Move on. You're going to be successful however you define success. So
Yeah, I've been taking notes because the when you go into an industry, I specifically felt like I needed to be perfect. Like I needed to be on, I needed to ask all the right questions, like I needed to make sure that I was whatever I was saying, like, I was like if I was in a meeting, I was going to speak up and all of that. And I was just like, yes, there is like this expectation that you need to be perfect, but you don't need to be perfect to be valuable. Like you are valuable without, if you're going to speak, making sure it has value actually adds more to your credibility as well. So, and Martina, I think like for me, like women also, they can get it, especially at Striker right now, especially within our division. There's so much going on, so many moving parts. We have a lot of acquisitions coming as well. So people get a lot of threatened and there's a lot of headbutting. And so like women, like other marketing associates, women in other fields or and other territories, they'll jump at the chance to be out there because everyone is thinking about themselves. But in networking specifically, I always just wore the hat of, listen, I just want to learn. Like I want to hear your perspective. It doesn't mean you have to like take their perspective necessarily, but listen to everybody, listen to what they have to say, and listening their point of view makes them not only like specifically men, makes them feel more important and makes them feel more like sorry to any men that are on here. But it makes them feel more important and it makes them feel like they're actually like helping you in some way. And then that actually, by listening to them, it actually, you get the tools to, no, literally, just not you guys, but like other men. It gives you the tools to be like, okay, if I'm gonna say something in a meeting, I'm gonna say something with these other perspectives in mind and actually provide value. Something my manager and I are working on is making sure that if I'm in a meeting, I'm not just saying something to say something. I'm not just saying something to say like, oh, here, I'm here, like I promise I am. It's I'm adding value. I'm being strategic about it. Um, and that comes with like learning a little bit more about yourself too, but taking the hat of listen, I just want to be here to learn. To Dr. Acevita's point, like if you mess up because you've already stated that you want to learn and because they know your intentions of wanting to learn and wanting to add value, you're never gonna actually like screw up that badly.
I just want to note to the part of the question that's the youngest in the room, because I know a lot of you guys are graduating and will be the youngest in a lot of rooms, despite demographics of who's in there. Don't be scared to be the youngest in the room. You also don't need to like advertise it unless it's, I mean, I also work from home, so it's maybe a little bit different, but even if you work in an office, unless it's like you and a bunch of you're 22 and everyone else is very clearly over 40, it's really people aren't going to know your direct age unless you walk in the door and you're like, "Hi, I'm Ryan." Sorry, Ryan, I just used your name. But like, "Hi, I'm Ryan and I'm 22. Nice to meet you." Nobody's going to know and nobody's going to care. What they're going to care about is, are you getting your job done? Are you like asking questions when you're being asked? To Ria's point, are you adding value to conversations? Are you doing this? Are you being a part of it? Let me tell you, I started my job at Mountain about exactly 4 years ago. I was the I was 22 going on 23. I was the youngest person in every room at the company until about 2 years ago. And then I was like 24 and they started hiring some sales reps that were like 22 fresh out of college. Um, so I was the youngest person in the room for a long time. I'm still in my direct team, the youngest person. My direct team is like 11 people, and then there's like 28 people on my whole team. I am the youngest of all of them at 26, almost 27. I will say there is a new person starting on Monday and they are 23 years old. And so I am very excited to pass the baton on to someone else. But I'm also in a position where I've had my job for a while. I'm secure. I make jokes with my coworkers about being the youngest person. Like it's kind of funny, but again, to my original point, no one's going to know unless you tell them. So just walk in and do your job. And if you're in the room or you're on the call, you have a place there. They want you there. You are needed there. They are paying you for your time to be there.
That's great. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, it is so important to just recognize sometimes if you are the younger one or, the newest, and just being okay with that and being within it and knowing that you'll learn from the job, but also you can teach someone something new. My favorite thing at work, I'm the youngest with, some older folks, and I love teaching them young lingo and slang terms, and they love it. And I know Megan's covering her eyes. She hates when I use it, but I mean, they love it. We have fun, and it's something I can contribute to them, and they like hearing my young stories, and I like learning from them. So you never know what you can contribute to the situation. So it's a great time.
No, and you have a fresher perspective too, dude. Like,
Yeah,
don't discount your perspective ever.
exactly. Thank you.
You'll also learn a lot. Like a lot of the people on my team are between, I would say 28, 29, and like 34. And like they talk about MySpace and stuff all the time. And I'm like, what? Teach me. TV
Literally.
shows and things like from way before I can even
That's
remember.
how we feel about TikTok.
Yes,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like
And then I
someone
send them TikToks all day and they're like, thank you.
exactly. Oh no, I think I froze it. Uh-oh.
We
Okay.
can hear
Sorry.
you're good. You're
Okay,
good.
good.
Yeah.
Ari, did you have a question? Feel free to
I did.
go for
Yeah.
it. Go
Sorry,
for it.
I'm not gonna have my camera on because if you've been at MSU, you know this Wi-Fi would kill your phone. So I wanted to ask Denise a question. Sorry, I came in late because this Wi-Fi is so bad. But I I wanted to know, I guess, how did you approach yourself to these kids? How did you oh my phone fell. How did you I guess make that like start making that impact on these kids? Because with such a different mindset, right, that these kids have, they might feel secure in that position, and going out of your comfort zone when you're so deep into that perspective, it can get really hard to get out. And I because because being seeing the South a little bit, I've seen it can get very hard for them to come out of that comfort zone. So I guess how did you approach that impact?
Are you talking about the kids when I worked with the gang kids in the middle school?
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you for the question.
of course.
So,
Yes.
um, I I'm not gonna lie, I was amazingly beautiful back then. I was 26 years old, weighed 118 pounds. My hair was super, super long. And, this was in the 90s when it was shoulder pads and makeup and, the big hoop earrings. And for 16, 17 hours a day, I wore tight skirts, nice blouses, and high heels. And I put all of that aside and I would literally get down on the floor to work with kids if they were doing an art project. Here I was, this white chick, going out walking into the fields in my skirts and my high heels to work with my migrant students and talk to their parents. And this was before I learned Spanish. So that was fun. Um, and honestly, it just came down to absolutely every relationship that you and everybody is going to have personally or professionally is establishing and then building that trust. These kids, that was one of the hardest jobs I've ever had. I was there for 2 years, and there were times I would come home after teaching them and working with them all day or helping their parents look for jobs or a place to live or whatever, literally going to their houses and helping them clean. Um, I would come home. Sometimes I would get undressed, sometimes I wouldn't, and I would just go sit in the bathtub and let the water rain down on me because these kids just needed somebody to authentically love them, and that is the language that I used before I changed. And it was a quick mindset change. I started substituting at one of the middle schools in town before I landed at this first one, and I had never taught before, had no teaching experience ever. And some of the veteran teachers were telling me, well, when you get in here, if they start acting up, just tell them to shut up. And so that's what I was doing. I was like, y'all need to shut up, just shut up. And it felt so wrong, but that's what I was told to do by veterans, right? By my veteran teachers. So it wasn't me, it didn't fit me. And one of the kids yelled back, F you shut up. And it was like, I didn't say anything, but I was like, wow, they're right. I mean, they're right. And so for my students, it took a long time. They had to learn how to trust. First of all, because I think I worked with over 200 students, probably close to 300 students. I think I had maybe 3 white kids. The rest were either Black or Hispanic, or Native American. Right. So the biggest thing was helping them to learn that they could trust me, and they could. I was the one who refused to go into this is when paddling was still legal. I was the one who refused to go into the office to witness them getting paddled. I was the one who would bring food to their families if they didn't have it. I had kids coming to my house in the morning. I would be upstairs getting dressed, and they would be downstairs in my kitchen eating breakfast. I was the one who helped a girl escape from her dad and her stepmother because the stepmother would hold the little girl down so the dad could beat her. I was the one who was helping students escape from horrific experiences. Um, and it was, and I know this can sound very trite, but it was literally through love, through authentic love, and showing them and demonstrating that they were and remained wonderful contributors to our small town, to society, to the school, to the world in general. And from that moment forward, when that kid said "F you" to me, "You shut up," I had this mindset shift, and I said, "This is not me. I have to approach all my students with love." And that's what I've done ever since. And I know that it sounds kind of, oh, hokey hokey, hippie-ish. But that's genuinely, even students who don't like me, I don't care. I still love them. They're humans. They're my babies. They're my little Padawans, and I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that they're successful, whether they want me to help them or not. And I had one of the students. It took her literally 2 years to trust me. She came from an abusive home. Um, just hell on earth, this kid. And one day, like literally 2 years after I met her in sixth grade. She was in eighth grade. It was toward the end of the year, and nobody came to pick her up. They just left her. And she came to me with one of my other students I've been working on and asked if I could give her a ride home. I'm like, oh, sure, absolutely. Even though we weren't supposed to, right? I'm like, yeah, of course. I'm not going to have you walk home. And that's all it took, just that one kindness. And man, that kid was like, and she was a tough kid, let me tell you. If there's ever a zombie apocalypse, I want her at my back. She was a tough kid. And I'll tell you, she was like one of my greatest success stories. And not just because she went to high school, yada, 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 but she just completely outdid who her family wanted her to be, all because of love.
Thank you. That's beautiful. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. All right. I'm gonna move on to another question. Again, this is for anyone. Feel free to answer. So I'm gonna put in chat here. So if you could go back in time to yourself as an undergraduate student, as we have here, among our members, and give yourself a piece of advice, what would it be? I know there might be a lot, like what's something if someone had come to you day one freshman year and said, "Go do this," or "You should do this," what would you have liked to hear?
This sounds so silly, but genuinely, if someone would have told me on day one, like everything that's supposed to happen will just happen and it will work out and it will be okay, that would have been great because I have since learned that as an adult. I think especially after graduating college and being like, okay, everything that's just, and not even just in work, in life, like whether your plane is delayed or car gets stuck, or those are just transportation examples. I don't know why I use those, but you know what I mean? Whatever it is in life, whatever's going on, like it will be okay. And it's sometimes it really seems like it's the end of the world and everything, you're like under a rock, everything is crumbling on top of you and it's not going to be okay. But whatever that is happening is like setting the course for something else to be better. So like in a case of a college student, it's like maybe you apply to literally 600 jobs and you don't get a single one of them, but maybe you get the 603rd job or whatever that is. It's like just keep going. And again, it's something I've learned, but I think if someone would have told me that when I was a young freshman in college, of like, I promise you it will work out no matter what it is, like that would have been helpful and saved me a lot of anxiety and a lot of like trying to control every situation because there's a lot of stuff you can't control, right? Like you can control submitting your applications and you can control what you're applying for and you can control what clubs you're a part of and what you do. But at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to control if someone really like offers you a job or whatever that is, or if you're going, if you get into a certain graduate school, like that's ultimately not your decision, it's theirs. Um, so I would really just try to not let that stuff get you bogged down and always cry, have all your emotions, let it all out. But at the end of it, always say, okay, you know what? What's coming? This wasn't meant for me, and what's coming is meant for me.
I
Exactly what I was gonna say.
that. Yeah.
Like
Go ahead.
word for word. I was just gonna say trust the process. There were so
Yeah.
many times, like so many tears, so much like things feel out of my control, exactly like you were talking about, Megan, where I was like, this isn't what I planned, this isn't what I wanted. Obviously, my career took a shift. I went to, I had a bunch of different schools that I went to, and I was just trying to like figure out what is my place because it just was not originally what I thought it was going to be. And it sounds so simple and like also but difficult. Like how do you just trust the process? You just trust that it's going to work out, but it just really always does, and you end up exactly where you're meant to be. Like I was not meant to be in a single other like career doing anything else. Like this was exactly where I was supposed to be. I'm so happy with where I'm at. um but I didn't realize that during the times where I was like really in the thick of emotionally going through it. So yeah, I agree with everything you said, Meg.
Yeah, I totally, just to piggyback off of that, I totally agree. And also with, hand in hand with the control, if I could go back, I would tell myself to stop comparing myself to my peers, my friends. And that has so much to do with like, we come from such different like everybody comes from different backgrounds. Like, it doesn't matter if you're two white people. It doesn't matter if you still have different backgrounds, right? You still were raised in different households. Like I'm an immigrant. My family immigrated here when I was 4, and I became friends with, a group of people in undergrad, and they had parents that were extremely successful and had connections that were beyond like anything I could imagine. Like, because my parents didn't have those connections. They came from being very successful in, in Iran. I'm Iranian, and we immigrated here. And my dad was a professor in Iran, and he came here and he was working at Meyer to start off, right? Like he had to work his way up. And so this just goes back to like everybody has different, I was always comparing myself like, oh my God, how did this person land this like amazing internship? And it's like, well, because sometimes it's all about networking and connections, right? And their parents had those connections, and that's okay. Or they all went, because a lot of people went to like private school, and I was like, oh, like I didn't, I went to public school. I didn't know that there was, that you could start prepping for the ACT or the SAT from like the second you walk into high school. Like that's not what I did. I was told I have to take a test, right? Like my parents didn't know about prep courses. English is not their first language. English is not my first language. Like, just don't. I really wish I would have stopped comparing myself, because it made me angry at like myself. I'm like, oh my God, why am I not landing those positions? And it made me angry at like my support system, but like they were doing the best they could at the time. So
No, yeah, like I completely echo everything everyone has been saying. Like I remember not too long ago being in that position of um when I graduated, my best friends all had jobs. They were all moving in with their boyfriends or moving in outside of, finding their own apartment. One of my friends is a film major, she's editor in LA. And like, there's nothing more glamorous in my mind than like fulfilling that dream and that prophecy. Like, that's amazing. And then I was like moving at home and I was like living in my childhood bedroom, applying to jobs. I was like, I had my own, like, I was doing my own stuff. I had my own startup and stuff like that. But I just still felt like I was like comparing myself to other people, my best friends even. I'm just like, no, you can't do that. And um like you just got to keep breathing. You never underestimate having a little bit of a positive mindset. And I know that is so, so hard. And like we're speaking like because we have jobs that are hopefully secure, like it's just so hard when you're in it, and especially but just making sure like be in your emotions, breathe, be open to whatever you can, be open to whatever opportunities that land yourself, and just keep growing. I What helped me was I had an anchor. So like I said, I had other activities that I was doing besides just like applying for jobs. I had an AI. I was doing a lot of stuff with AI startups, and I had my own, and I was doing LinkedIn stuff. Like I had my own thing. So no matter what, I never felt stagnant because I just kept growing, and I kept putting myself in positions where I kept learning and networking and stuff. So it's so hard to start out. But when you're an undergraduate, like just breathe, baby. You're gonna be okay. I promise everything is gonna be okay. You have a support, you have a network around you that's gonna make sure of that too. So just, yeah, you really have to breathe. Yep.
I would add, those are just beautiful statements. I would add, um, and I know that it's hard at such young ages, but try to be as mindful in the present, in the good times and the bad times. Um, I blinked and I went from 24 to 60. I literally blinked and I'm 60 years old now. And I don't know how that happened, but I think about a lot as I get older of all the things that I've done. And when I was an undergrad at MSU, and the good and the bad and the ugly, and all my graduate programs and the good, the bad and the ugly. And there's so many experiences that I have had that I wish I could go back to and relive, bad or good, just so that I could be more present. And then at the same time, though, and I say this kind of a little bit tongue in cheek, um, in the scheme of life, these 4 years or 5 years or however long you're going to be at MSU are important in helping to shape who you are, right? Beautifully, professionally, academically, that's great. But in the scheme of your whole life, they are a teeny tiny little blip. So if you fail a class, so what? Take it again. If you break up with somebody, deal with the pain. They hurt you. That's mean. We all hate them. We're going to be with you. We're going to have your back and hate them. Move on. There's literally so many other people to choose from. you know, Feel the emotions that my colleagues here have said, be mindful of that emotion, but understand too that it seems like it's so heavy at moments, but it's really such a small amount of time in your life. And I promise you, no matter all the crap that you're going to have to deal with in your life, there are gazillions of more wonderful things that are going to be coming to you that outweigh 100%. The person that you're like, oh my gosh, this person is the best person for me and at MSU, and they love me and I love them, blah blah blah. 2 or 3 years from now, you might not even remember who they are, or maybe you marry them. I don't know, but then maybe you don't. Tiny tiny little blip. Love it. Just squeeze all you can out of it, because you're going to blink and you're going to be 60.
That's wonderful. Thank you guys. Yeah, I appreciate you saying just live in the moment and whatever happens, happens, because I had a plan my freshman year and I don't think anything's stayed the same. So it definitely changes, and I don't even really know what I'm going to be doing in a couple months after I graduate, but it's part of the ride. So I'm very excited. I also appreciate what you said about having a good cry. I think those are so underappreciated. Um, if I'm feeling stressed out and then I cry, I'm like a whole new person and I can follow whatever I need to do after that and complete it. So that's really good advice. I do have a question for Mateen. I know she has to get going in about 10-ish minutes here. So I'm just gonna ask one quick question towards you. And if anyone else has a question for her before she goes, definitely feel free to ask or reach out afterwards. But I was kind of curious, what did you think was kind of the biggest transition from going from your undergrad? I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, like it was harder, but like going from undergrad to law school and then um you're an attorney. Like, what was kind of that big transition for you? What was it like?
So yeah, I mean, going from undergrad to law school was a big transition, but then going also from law school into like actual adult work was a huge transition too. I think it was really, I took a gap year and that this all goes to what we were all saying, like, it's okay if you have to take a minute to not, you don't have to be like, oh my God, like all my friends are going to their graduate programs, like what am I going to do? Or they have jobs, like it's okay to take a gap year and figure it out. I took a gap year for personal reasons. Again, was still great. And I was working at the time, but I think the biggest, like the hardest transition was like getting away from my like big support system. Like I made all these amazing friends in undergrad, and I'm so blessed that like I'm still friends with them. Megan's one of them, and it's just it was really hard because then I went to MSU and I'm like, okay, I don't know anyone here and I don't know how to study for these tests. Like law school is so different than undergrad in the way that, and like you get cold called in law school. And I was like, man, I love speaking in front of people, but like not when I don't know the answer, like not when I'm getting cold called. And so I think like that was a big transition, learning how to learn the law. It was like so different. You have these like huge textbooks and you're like, well, I have to read every single, and it's like, I was doing that. I was the person that was reading every single word and I wasn't understanding. Like, I'm like, no, what you really have to understand is like the big picture. Like that's what you're tested on. So, just educationally, that was really difficult for me. Like I excelled in so many classes my first semester, but then there were like two classes where I was like, okay, like these are the worst grades of my life. But then I just, I got better as I learned how to study. And then the transition to, being an adult and like not, I mean, I was an adult, but I was a student for so long, was crazy because I was thrown in to, at my very first law firm. It was like, hey, here's your second week as an attorney. Now you're going to have to depose. You take your first deposition. And I'm like, well, I don't even know what that is, right? Like it was very difficult building the confidence. But then, once I did, it's been a smooth ride. And I think, well, I mean, like there's been bumps, but it's been a lot better. And I can't see myself doing anything differently. So hopefully that answers. And I do have to log off in 9-ish minutes, but I do want to just, before I log off, if this is the last opportunity I get to speak to you guys, again, please me up. Feel free to share my contact information. I think I provided my LinkedIn. You guys can email me. Again, don't forget what I said in the beginning about network, and LinkedIn is huge. I don't know if your guys' generation is big on that, but like we were, so use it.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Yeah, we actually just had our MSU Career Services come in a few weeks ago and tell us, how to boost our resume, talk on LinkedIn, how to use it. So we definitely appreciate that resource and appreciate you offering it. And I really like what you said about learning how to study. I think that's probably the hardest thing I've learned here is that, my high school studying was not my undergraduate studying, and different classes have different, ways to learn and how you're going to best absorb all that information. So I think that's a really good piece of advice. Thank you. If does anyone else have another question for Mateen, or if not, I can move on to another question. Just want to offer that up before she has to head out in a couple minutes here. All right. Wonderful. Then I'm gonna kind of ask a question, I guess for anyone that's able to answer, it's kind of broad. But how do you feel your, since you all attended MSU at some point, how do you feel your classes kind of prepared you for where you are now or got you into what you're doing now? Was there a specific class that you think about every day that's like, oh, this one helped me the most, or a specific experience at MSU or organization that got you to where you are today or made you interested in what you're doing?
I'll go first. So as I kind of mentioned at the beginning, I didn't go into school as an advertising major. I went in undecided and then like took business classes and I was not taking science classes because I was like, I'm not doing science, but I knew I wanted to do marketing, something. I did not like marketing. Sorry, Ria. I was like, this is so boring. Get me out of these numbers. I need to go do something fun and creative. So I found advertising and then specifically advertising creative. Well, I don't know if any of you are in that major, but once you kind of get to your junior year, it's really like all the and this is probably all majors, but like it's all of the specific major courses. So I was taking like design and copywriting class after copywriting class. And like I would have an occasional class that's like advertising general basics or whatever that I'd have to go take a test in. But most of my classes were group work and group efforts. And then I was also within advertising, I was a part of an advertising club, where we worked on an advertising campaign the whole year. It was through a separate advertising entity, AAF, which works with the universities. And at the end of the year, we went and competed against other schools with our advertising campaign. So I think that experience, I did that for 2 years of seeing a advertising campaign, like from a brand standpoint, be thought of, created. We had to provide advertising metrics on it. So we had to be like, okay, we're going to place our billboards on these billboards. And they actually had to exist in the country. And then we actually had to call the billboard people and get prices on how much it would cost, and add all that up. So that was just really great, really in-depth experience. And I already loved advertising, but doing all of that really made me love it even more. Um, and then yeah, just all the group work and working with a group is kind of my main point here. Sorry, it took me a moment to get there, but all of my classes were group work, working with people, and like that's what I do every day. Like I get on a call and it's like, okay, what are we like working on today, guys? Who needs help? Like, what are we working on? Who needs help? How are we doing this project? I'm on calls all day. It is nonstop group work. Again, work from home. So we're always slacking each other, always working as a team. And I think I tend to have more of a personality of like, oh, I can just like put my head down and get this done and I'm just going to do it. There's so much more value in taking whatever that item is and maybe having a good foundation of it, but then taking it to a team and brainstorming and working with other people and really letting other people in on your ideas and thoughts and working with them on their ideas and thoughts. Um, I really love working by myself. And so I think learning how to work in groups in college really allowed me to be like, okay, now in the workforce, I work with people all day. How do we do that?
Yeah, for a specific course in MSU, I think it really depends on the kind of like what you want to do. I also didn't start off knowing that I wanted to be a marketing major. In fact, my parents hated that I wanted to go into marketing. My dad is in business. So he was very thrilled that I wanted to go into business school, but he did not like he did not want me to go marketing. He's like, that is like not business. He's like, I want you to go finance. I want you to do IT. I want you to do something else. My mom, she did not care if she wanted me to go to medicine, but she didn't really care too much. Um, so I just really experimented a little bit more. I really like took classes that interested me and found specifically what I like with those. And something I also want to point out is when you're in the real world, I'm gonna keep saying this till the day I die. You never stop learning. And like these days I'm doing a lot of work that's kind of like Megan's, where I'm like doing a little bit more advertising these days and a little bit more design work. I'm doing a lot of graphic design work right now, for some reason. And it's like I found that I'm actually like really good at it. Like I never would have thought that I was, but I have a passion, like I have a good thing about designing. And so within your classes, I think you should it's Pivoteen. You should tailor yourself a little bit more to what you would be interested in learning. And it's okay if you don't want to go into that at all. It actually like you learn also with stuff you don't want to go into. I think someone said they hate science, and I'm like, yeah, great. I also did not like science. So I was like, good, I'm not gonna do science either. I don't like numbers, so finance is off the table for me. Um, but yeah, you literally learn from like looking at the classes that you really like and talking with people in those classes. Um, and finding out what aspects that you liked. I realized I like IT, but I hate coding. Absolutely hate coding. Just I'm not gonna do it. But I'm good at project management and managing those coders and understanding their tools and then putting it in layman's terms for everyone else to understand. So it's like when you're in a course, figuring out also like what you like about it, what not, what interests you. And going down that path was always really helpful.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I had necessarily one specific experience, but by the time I got to my junior year and I was done with the core science classes, to whoever said they hate science, I kind of get it for some. Um, like you can miss me on organic chemistry every single day. I didn't care about physics. Like there were so many like core science classes that literally are like major ending like classes. Like I cried my way through some of these classes. But by the time I got to my junior year and I took my first neuroscience class and I got to put it all together and like I just remember like I had my closet doors were mirrors and I got these multicolor expo numbers and I just started drawing diagrams and like going over nerve routes and how it interacts with the brain. I'm like, this is the part of science that I really like. I like putting it all together. And then I joined a club on campus that's called Pre-Soma. And we got to do like learn stitches and we got to have different doctors come in and talk about their careers and what they do. And I ended up shadowing one of those doctors for like a year and a half, who also taught at the med school. So it was just, it was a lot of pieces of like getting up to the level that I needed to really engage my interest fully and then reaching out and doing different experiences that pulled in those interests too. Like you can sit at home and say you're interested in something, but until you're out there actually doing something and getting involved and meeting more people who are also passionate about what you do, it's really hard to like gain that momentum to really get you through. Like, listen, it was hard to get through biochem, but you know, I had these other things that I was super excited about. It's like, okay, I just got to do it. So I got to do it. So yeah, it wasn't one thing, but I think MSU is really great at how diverse they are and how many groups that they have, how many different majors there are, and how many people are like social enough to want to get together and like, let's talk about it, let's do something. And I think that's one of the great things about Rotaract is that it pulls in people from so many different majors and interests. So, you know, especially if you can find somebody else in the group that also has your interests, you know, I just think like get motivated, get encouraged to like get out there and do stuff with it. And MSU definitely gave me the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, MSU is a rare school for that. MSU, I've learned from like talking with other people, the amount of like freedom that you can have with like gaming the system, so you can take classes you like, take classes you don't like, and like figure it out. You really do gain a lot of perspective.
Just out of curiosity, and you guys don't have to say, but is anyone in here in the College of Communication Arts and Sciences currently?
Me.
You? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is still true, but when I was there, we had to take an ungodly amount of credits outside of the College of Communications, Arts, and Sciences. Like compared to everyone else, like if you were in science, they were just like, all you have to do is take these science courses and like maybe one extracurricular. In comm arts, like I can't even remember the amount, but we had to take so many that I got to my senior year and my advisor was like, you need to stop taking creative writing classes and go take like a kinesiology class. And so I took tennis for 2 semesters. So to Ria's point of also doing something fun and that you like, advised by my advisor, they were like, you have to have credits outside of comm arts because I only wanted to take comm arts classes because that's all I was interested in. So like if you are in that situation or something similar, I recommend like finding something fun too, because you might find skills or experiences or meet people in those classes that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
was forced to take some 400 level linguistics class. It was all
Linguistics
coding.
463. I know
You ended up
exactly what you're
taking it. It
talking
was like zeros and ones on my first day. And I'm like, where am
Yes,
I?
I took that class too for like one day. I immediately
Horrible.
switched out.
Horrible. I
Worst
wanted to
class
like
I've ever
cry. I'm like, this
taken.
is so out of my wheelhouse. Like
Yeah.
so yeah, don't take that class if you have the option, if you don't like coding or anything to do with that, because it's not a great time.
No, actually, like I took psychology classes for a long time just because I was just really interested in it and I had the capability to do so. And I was like, I still use that day to day. Like I still think about that day to day. Like I don't know why that just comes up and I'm just like, great, I know this now. I know the areas of the brain. I mean, psychology and marketing go really, really hand in hand. But it's just like even just talking to like sales reps in general and like talking to all these different people, like I'm talking to finance and you still like learn on that a little bit, but yeah, no, that linguistics class was really hard. I switched out of that within 1 day.
I had to take it.
Yeah, I like
But
had to take it. I'm like, well, I'm a neuroscience major. What am I doing in this computing class? But
yes. I
life
will
has
say,
its own.
like what Dr. Acevedo said, meet with your advisors because that's the last thing you want to happen is your spring semester senior year, and they're like, you didn't take 3 classes and they're only offered in the fall. So definitely make sure you listen to that. And a lot of my friends have looked at during the summer taking online courses at community colleges and transferring that credit over and saving like thousands of dollars. So definitely look into that too. I know Megan T did that as well. So definitely look into that. Ari, you have a question?
Yeah. So just about MSU in general, I think because you guys are all graduates. For those of you who don't know, I am a freshman at MSU. I literally just got here. So Ria, you thought you were a freshman. Okay. So the um the core programs for each and every college, there are that can be like one of you said, career ending at some point. I think Megan, that was you that said that. Um, they can definitely change your mind a lot of things, and they can also they've changed my mind even though I haven't even entered them. Like engineering, did not want to enter the College of Engineering because I saw physics, 3 physics classes. I dropped out the idea in 2 seconds. And being from an Indian household, it's very common for the parents to push the engineering idea on you. I tolerated none of that. So but basically, one like my main point is there's so many core classes that you have to take within the college that you're in at MSU, and that can be, I think, a bit frustrating when those classes don't sound at all interesting. They sound very maybe not at all like what you want to do with what you like want to do in the future. Like for example, I'll use a real life example. I wanted to go into economics, but more into the global impact of economics. But the Broad College does not exactly highlight that as much as the College of Social Science does. So I was thinking, but the thing is, the Broad College is something that I was a little bit more passionate about going into because they had a better connections. I thought they had a more of an environment that was like I guess just with economics, there was one side of it that I didn't get with social science. That's the main point. So I know Ria, you were in Broad. I don't know anyone else who maybe switched in and switched out. But I guess how do you just overall approach it mentally, just going through these core programs?
I was not in Broad. Obviously, I was science, and I told you some of those classes definitely feel like career ending, right? But I think I was really lucky in the sense of I knew what my goal, like I knew what I wanted, and it kind of was just like eat your vegetables. We got to get through it. If that means you get a tutor, if that means you go to office hours, like you do what you have to do to get through it. Like sometimes you can go in with your test. I did this a handful of times. You go in with your test and like, no, let's sit down, let's go through it. Where was my thinking wrong? Like I didn't like a lot of these classes, but that didn't mean like I was just gonna skate by. I was gonna do the best that I could while I was there and learn because I was going to need it for my future classes. And I think part of some of the really hardcore classes, in my opinion, is that they're like weeding out classes. If you can't sit through and get through this, there are a lot harder things down the road. So, how are you going to persevere through this tough course? So that would be my suggestion is, if you're really steadfast on what you want your career to be and what you want to do, you got to take the initiative to do the extra legwork, meet with the providers. Whew, I'm still on work time. Meet with the professors, get a tutor, talk to your guidance counselors, like do everything you can to, succeed as much as you can in those classes.
I would add too, because I've been an advisor as well at a lot of different organizations, and Megan hits it right on the head. You have to become very self-aware of what your interests are, and more importantly, of what your passion is or our passions are. And you already know you don't want to do engineering, which is great. Check that out, cross that off a list. And if you're really into economics and the global impact, then there are ways at MSU you can do majors with minors and double majors. And like Megan was saying, that might add a little bit more time or more classes or more whatever than you had originally anticipated. But if that's what you are really passionate about, then the sacrifice now is going to lead you to a place where you're going to want to end up anyways. And a little sacrifice now to get what you want in the long run is a lot easier doing it now than it will be potentially when you're older, or if you're in a program until your junior year and then, oh no, I don't want to do this, and then you have to start completely all over again, or so have that conversation with your advisors. And quite frankly, if you have an advisor and you don't click with that person or they're not helpful, talk to somebody else. It's like finding a therapist. Find an advisor who you click with. And until you find that person, just keep looking, keep asking. But you have to self-advocate. You have to just really get up there and speak your truth, and be really open about what you want. And if MSU, quite frankly, doesn't offer it, find a way to make it happen and take advantage of that, like Megan was saying. And even those classes that you don't like, do them anyways. I have students in my classes all the time, in my writing classes, WRA 101. Oh, I hate writing. It's so boring. It's like, that's how I feel about math. Math is a 4-letter word to me. But you have to do it. Literally everything you do in life is going to include writing in some form or fashion. So it's just about speaking up for yourself, and you're doing that now, which I think is woohoo, good for you.
Yeah, and just to echo everything about the advisors, I think advisors are so important. Mine really helped me, general advisors, advisors in college communications and arts. And I think a lot of people, maybe not, I don't know anyone here, I'm not trying to say specifics, but like you might not be like, oh, I don't need to see my advisor, or I'll do that when I'm a junior, I'll do that when I'm a senior, I'll do that. No, like my biggest advice to anyone is, as a freshman, go speak to your advisor. I like maybe talk to an advisor in the fall semester of my freshman year, but I went in again undecided, was just taking general classes like the math classes, the WRA 101, like all my basics with an occasional business marketing, or like, I don't know, probably something else interesting that I can't remember, and just trying to figure out what I wanted. By March of my freshman year, I went to an advisor probably for like the first real time that I can remember, and was like, I don't know what I want to do, and I'm a year in, and that's okay. But they then helped put me in other courses of like, why don't you try this advertising course over here? And why don't you try this? And why don't you try this? So I was just taking all these, like all my required, like social studies, biology, whatever you had to take. And then, so I was getting those out of the way. And then by the time it came around to my end of my sophomore year, I had fallen in love with advertising because they put me in one advertising class, and I was like, I love that. Fell in love with it, was in more advertising classes and getting ready to go on a study abroad for advertising. And then that was really just like, I knew I wanted to go and I knew I wanted to do that. And again, everyone's path is different, but I think really, if you are in a space where you're trying to kind of, you might not know what you want to do, but you're also trying to check off some of those boxes of don't want to do that, don't want to do this. If you have the opportunity to test out different classes, even somewhere like LCC or a different community college, like really recommend that, because there's always time for more education. And I think you're at a point right now where it's like, you don't have to know today what you want to do. And I really encourage you all to explore that.
I would add to Ria's point in the chat, and meet mentors. Having mentors is really good, but I would also recommend to everybody, and I mean, I'm still looking for is to find people who are your champions, people who champion your cause. A mentorship can have a that mentor-mentee relationship can have a power dynamic that is sometimes not equal. But if you have somebody who's championing you, then they're not in it for anything other than to make sure you succeed. So find those people who are your champions too. Whether that is a professor or a brother or your friend at, your roommate or whatever. Find people who are going to be in your corner, not because they have to, because it's part of their job, or they're getting something else out of it, but just because they are authentically wanting you to be successful. It is my champions in my career and in my personal life, quite frankly, who have really helped me become successful. And I don't mean, oh, well, I'm a professor, I'm so successful. I mean, just as a human being have helped me become successful as an individual human, because of these champions, quite frankly, more than anything else, aside from my kid. But yeah, so find a champion.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. We think we have time for maybe two or so more questions if anyone has any. And while they're thinking of some, I do have one kind of piggyback off you saying, find your champions and your mentors. I'm curious if any of you'd be willing to share, like, who were your role models, as you were growing up or as you're in school or now as you're in your career, who was, there for you and kind of were you just your role models who made you want to be what you wanted to be?
I'll go first because I kind of want to piggyback after Dr. Acevedo's point of like the dynamic between a mentor and a mentee. I don't know why that like I mean that really resonates with me because right now at work, I have a lot of people who I consider like friends and like mentors of mine. Um, but there is that power shift. There is that power dynamic between okay, like where am I at and stuff. And that kind of brings into like being the youngest in the room. We were talking about that earlier. Like it can definitely be that way, but like having your advocates are super important and you find those kind of naturally in the workspace of just like if you're being open and just wanting to learn and you like my manager is my biggest mentor my biggest advocate these days. I swear like I it feels like I've never had an advocate before, just with how much she helps me out so much, and she's going on maternity leave soon, so I'm like I'm gonna have to figure out how to advocate for her. I'll talk about my parents a lot. They are the reason for everything I do, and so like following in their footsteps, I literally am their child because my dad does tech and my mom does medicine and I do med tech, so it's like I'm like it's perfect. But also like I found people with I found like people like role models through internships a lot. When you're an intern and you're undergraduate, like everyone is more willing to help you out because you're an intern and it's just like it's just blanket statement that you're there to learn and that you're there to do stuff. So like meeting with managers, meeting with upper managers even. My role model is actually my manager's manager from my internship. Like I don't know, like I we just clicked and we hit it hard and I just had a call with him last week about he moved. So he's out in Jersey and he moved different company and he's doing real well for himself. So it's like you meet those people on the job. But you also like meet people like through LinkedIn. Professors have also been really, really good as well for me. So, but yeah, your role models, you really want to establish and making sure that like when you find your champion, when you meet someone, making sure you understand the relationship between if they're a mentor or they're a champion, because that will affect how you work with them. Not in a bad way, but it definitely like you're certain where you go, who you go to for certain things, for sure.
I'd piggyback off that too. I think having advocates in your field is super important, and especially like with professors who help guide you. Like, I definitely have had professors that are like, no, we're going to sit down here. We're going to hammer this. Like, you are going to get this. Like, you're overthinking things on exams. Let's take it back down to the basics, which is really important. I have advocates in my workplace now. Like, I think I'm very fortunate where I'm at that the providers and my managers are wanting me to grow to be better. They're like, hey, let's sit down. Let's read through some of the things that you did today. What could we have done better? What did you do really well? Where are the learning points, which is huge when you're first starting out in your career. But I do want to point out that role models can look different. Role models don't necessarily have to be somebody that's in your career doing the exact same thing that you love. Like, I have had, I mean, the first role model that I have is my mom. She is such a strong woman. She works very hard. She's a very dedicated person and she's so giving and caring. And those are things that I want to incorporate in my life and in my job and just who I am as a person. So I always start there. Advocates as teachers and in your work field, of course, too, but friends, can really, really get you where you got to go. I mean, I've had friends, and obviously you guys met Mateen. We were not in any of the same classes. We didn't do, the same careers at all, but you meet strong people who are also driven. You surround yourself with them and they give you the motivation to keep going. It may not be the same interest level, but it's that same drive. And that's really important to have yourself surrounded by classmates. I think I felt it more in graduate school, like because we are next level, and it's really intense at that point, but you keep each other going. Like it's like, oh my gosh, this is the hardest exam I've ever taken, or there's too much material on this exam, like there's just no way to get it all in such a short amount of time, but you just do, and you have people around you that are pushing you to the finish line and foster your growth. Like be surrounded by people that encourage you to ask questions, that want to find the answers out with you, and really see your potential and won't let you falter. I can't tell you how many times, I think quite literally it was an orgo class, I went home sobbing to my mom like, I cannot do it. If I can't get through this class, I'm not going to be able to get through my other classes. And she was like, but do you still want to do it? Do you still want that career? And I'm like, well, yeah. And she's like, then this is the stepping stone. So we're going to get through it. And sometimes, like, own your feelings, be sad, be overwhelmed, be stressed, but it's like, it's that next step. And you want to be surrounded by people who will get you there. So role models can be from all over and definitely take on different shapes. So always have your eyes open for those different people.
I'm going to add too, just to kind of, that was just so beautiful. I was like, that was so beautiful, Megan. And I want to touch a little bit on Ryan's question. And I was actually just typing them. I'm such a slow typer. Everything that Megan T just said, Ryan, it relates to your question. But sometimes it's easier said than done. Well, surround yourself with people who are advocates and help you, and champions and mentors and all these positive things. But sometimes we get to, our mental health sometimes doesn't allow us to be all that, bright, cheery rainbow and kittens kind of person. And I mean, I'm not a physician. I'm not a medical doctor. I don't play one on TV. So, but if you get to that place where any of you, not just Ryan, but and all of us, when we get to that place where we're just down and we don't want to do anything, and we just, then I am a really strong advocate, and that's took me a long time to do that, to take time just to not do anything for a day and sit on the couch and read or nap 7 times a day or eat potato chips, whatever it is, right? But with that said, if that is something persistent, then, and again, I'm not a medical person, Megan is, but then that might be telling you something else, right? Whether it's Ryan or any of us, that maybe we need somebody to help us who is more than just a champion and more than just a role model. Maybe we need to have a mental health specialist, a therapist, a psychologist who can help us when life is just packing it down on us, because shit happens, as we say in our classes, and sometimes we can handle that and sometimes we can't. And and when I was y'all's age, going to therapy was like you were practically telling people that you wanted to be admitted to a psych ward. And now, thankfully, it is so much more acceptable to say, you know what, I really need help and I don't know where I need to get that help, but I'm going to find out. And I have to say, I'm so proud of how MSU really, really supports students in so many ways, but primarily in their mental health too. So if you have life events getting you down, again, Ryan and all of us, then surround yourself with those people who can help you. If it's a little bit of a life getting you down, and if it's something that's going to be a little heavier or more longitudinal, find somebody who's a professional in that field, who can help you do that. And through Megan's work in the medical field, and I don't know, but maybe she knows people, or maybe you don't want to talk to somebody at MSU, maybe, I don't know, right? But there's other people who can help you. Come and find me. I will help you research to find people. Megan, I'm sure, knows a bunch of people too. But if it's getting you down, then you're going to have to disassociate yourself from that as much as possible and get help, however that help looks. And just like Megan was saying earlier, help can come in many different shapes, sizes, and forms. So, and I'm an advocate for everybody. So come to my office. I'm in Bessie 240. I'll put it in the chat. Find me. anytime. Anybody. Yep. That's it.
Yeah, to Ryan's case of unexpected events and stuff, I am not adaptable. I always thought that I was so adaptable because in college you feel like so much is happening and you're like, I'm running with like rolling with the punches, I can do it. And then I get into my workplace, and then a couple weeks ago, someone interrupted me during a presentation, and I almost like lost it. And I was just like, what happened just there? Like, why did I just react like that? Like, why internally am I feeling like this? And so, um, like unexpected is bound to happen in the little ways or in the big ways, and is how you react that sets you a little bit apart. So I know Dr. Easby, you said like therapy, but having like your little outlets as well. Like I can't go a week or anything like that without like working out. I don't know why. I just need to go outside, I need to work out. I need to be social. I need to like Mia knows this a lot too. Like I text a lot. Like I'm very social and I'm very much like I need to have the people around me and talk to people around me. Um, so you getting through those, continuing to keep going and growing through your network, through being having the people in your life and through having the activities that just give you joy in general. No one is asking you to give those up ever, and if they do, that is not a good place to work. That is not a good place to be. So it's like you really do need to just remember yourself, remember your values, remember who you are, and be confident in who you are. Um, because I swear everything is gonna be okay, and how you keep growing is just following your passions, following what you want to do, following what you can do, um, and relying on your network to be there to help in those really bad times.
Yeah, really just to add on to what Ria said is life is always going to be up and down, right? Sometimes you're going to be really high, high, and sometimes you're going to be really low, low. Sometimes you're going to be really high, high, or just regular high, and life's going to throw you an event, and you're going to be like, what is that? And knocked all the way down to the bottom. And so it's just like, it's what you do about it, it's how you act about it. Ria was talking about sharing your emotions and having reactions. I also want was something I've had to learn with that is your reaction at work can be very different from your reaction at home. Very recent story. I did something yesterday at work that basically affected all of the users in our platform. Within 1 hour, I figured it out and I changed it back, but it affected thousands of users. It was okay. Not a big deal. I acted very professionally about it at work. My boss was like, it's fine. We're going to get figured out. At home, I like am not even kidding you guys. I had a full mental breakdown yesterday. Like it was okay. I'm okay. Still working through it mentally. But it's like how you respond to something in a professional matter. You're like, okay, we got this. We're going to keep moving up. Like Denise said earlier, apologize once, move on with it. No, like I remember that because I did it. I guarantee you no one even remembers that, like at all. Not even a little bit. No one else is thinking about you. So it's just that was a little down for me. But today we're back up at it again. I did some great things today. So it's just, it's always ebb and flowing. And I think something that I'm even trying to continuously learn is like nothing's going to take you all the way back down to the bottom. I mean, maybe, but you always rise back up. And then something we work on at my job is our company name is Mountain. And so we have like a lot of references to Mountain, like our um mascot is a mountain goat. I don't know, so silly. But think about a mountain is like a mountain range as it goes up and then it kind of has to go down a little bit and then it's got to go up and then back down and then up. I'm going off the screen. But the point is that you're continuously going up even when you have points that come down. And the last thing I'll say is life would be really exhausting if we were always on a high the entire time. So it's okay to let it knock you down a little bit and have to learn to grow back up.
Yeah, that part. It's the growing, we can't learn unless we have opportunity to grow. So I think that was a really good point that you brought there, Megan. I like that.
Yes, thank you all so much. That was wonderful. We are approaching the 8 o'clock hour, so I don't want to keep anyone if they have to go. So I'm gonna start to wrap up a little here, and just kind of say our thank yous and everything. So first of all, thank you to our speakers. That was wonderful. We couldn't have had this event without you and all of your wisdom and advice, and we just really appreciate you, spending a couple hours with some college students and just yapping with us. We really appreciate it. It was a great time. Thank you, Ria. So I appreciate it. It's great seeing all of you here tonight. I'm just gonna pull up the end of our slides just so that way you guys can get that last little bit of information, and then we'll kind of close out the night. Let me just pull it up here. Technical things. Okay. There's my lovely sister. All right. So in closing, I do want to say again, thank you to all of our speakers, any other clubs and organizations besides Rotaract that were here, as well as G.L.O.W. Thank you, Ria, for talking a little bit about what you're doing and all the amazing things that you do as well, and all you've done to help us. Thank you to the other clubs that joined us. Any students that joined tonight, thank you. Again, any information you would like about the speakers, it is active right now on our website. So if you go to msurotaract.org, you can find their about info, their bios, LinkedIn, emails. Feel free to reach out to them. If you're have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I will connect you with whoever you are looking to talk to. I know all of them, so I'm happy to help you and help introduce you. And then if you have any other questions, again, you can also reach out to our club, which our information's on the next slide. Yeah, and then make sure if you are part of the club here, if you could scan this QR code just so that way you get your information. We can reach out to you afterwards if you have any questions. Again, we can reach out to you, look at our Instagram, our website, email me, text me, whatever you feel most comfortable doing. And again, thank you for joining us and thank you to our amazing, wonderful speakers and happy Women's History Month, everyone. Thank you. I hope you all have a wonderful night. Feel free to stick around for questions if you have any. We'll be here, but if you have to get going, not a problem at all. Thank you again.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Mia.
Thanks, Ari. Thank you.